All right, chapter 17, verse 1. Then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and talked with me, saying to me, Come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters. Pause real quick for just a second. We have here the seven bowl judgments. Remember, these were contained in that seventh trumpet, right? So the seventh trumpet sounds, boom, and that's like the prelude to the seven bowl judgments. So we're going to hit seven different bowl judgments. A lot of God's, the symbolism there. It's God's moving is manifested in the physical a lot of times, and so that's what we see here. So the heavenly scene here. One of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came, talked with me, saying, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters." Verse 2: With whom the kings of the earth committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Verse 3, So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. On her forehead, a name was written: Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I marveled with great amazement. Remember, John is getting a vision from Jesus, a vision for the end times, a vision of what is to come, that there's a warning for those who have a rebellious heart to God, a warning to those who have a hardened heart towards God, right? Those who are opposed to God, or even just calloused or distant or apathetic about following God. He's saying, wake up, people, right? Like that's what's going on here. That's what's been going on this entire this entire journey through Revelation of what is to come in the future. But looking at the beginning here, we get here to the specific symbolism, okay, of what this symbolizes. In the next section, we're going to see the specific symbolism of this. But let's talk about this Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth, right? Like okay, what is this, right? It's quoted right there. Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. The name Babylon has relationship to the nation of Babylon, of course, right? So Israel was captured; they were enslaved by in Babylon, right? The Babylonian Empire, and so Babylon stood as a symbol of paganism for years, right? Symbolism of it was a symbolism of paganism, power, domination, world domination. They were a major world power at that time, just dominating everywhere for centuries. Babylon was. Now, whether this future city is actually called literally Babylon, or if it's symbolic of Babylon, regardless, it's going to embody those same characteristics, right? We've already seen there's going to be this one world religion. We've seen that there's going to be this one world government. We've seen that there's going to be even a one world currency that's going to happen. And there's of course, the Antichrist, fueled by Satan himself. You've got the false prophet on the scene that's preaching a spiritual truth, which is led by demons and fueled by Satan himself, right? The city, whatever future city this is, it's going to be a symbol of man's achievement, okay? Mankind's achievement it's going to be a place of wealth, prosperity, and power, even amidst all the crazy judgments that have been going on, right? Man's going to be so hardened towards God. We don't need him, right? Because remember, there's no atheists at this point. They are knowing that there's a God because there's no explanation for how these things could ever happen. So it's just an opposition of him. We don't need you. Look what we can do. We don't need you. We reject you, right? And then they're building this city. And this city is they're throwing their money into this thing. And there's picture this like metropolis, this mega city happening here as a bastion of city. Look at what we can do, right? Very reminiscent of the Tower of Babel, right? which is the same root word for Babylon, by the way. Along with this wealth of prosperity and human ingenuity and kind of a rebellious nature, which humans can have, right? There is an abundance of sin. And here's the sin that's going to be happening. Fornication. That's what it talks about here, right? That's sex before marriage. Adultery is sex outside of marriage. The devaluation of marriage. There's going to be sexual deviation with, there's going to be a big trans, lesbian, gay movement. There's going to be drunkenness, drugs, partying, right? Blasphemy towards God, just a hatred of him and all things holy, all things Christian. A hatred of Christians, a severe persecution of Christians is happening. So look at that, what it said there. Drunk on the blood of the saints. Rejoicing in the death of anyone who would bear the name Jesus. This is the world that will come. We don't see it to this degree right now. But don't we see seeds of this? When you look at there's some very dark places in our country, but overall the country is still relatively open to allowing Christianity. But when you're really like sold out for Jesus and you say like, hey, Jesus is the way to heaven. That's it. And you start making those exclusive claims, it ruffles feathers real quick in our nation. And there's almost a hatred, antagonistic attacks that can happen verbally or just, mostly verbally in our country. Other countries, though, death threats, loss of job, ostracized from your family, removed from inheritance, killed for the proclamation of faith in Jesus Christ. That's now, let alone what's to come. So fast forward, you take the church out of this situation. Now there is no organized religion. It's all disorganized. So all the people that say, "Oh, I don't believe in organized religion," I guess they're happy here now. But now it's all everybody's fleeing and just like it's just an absolute. People are in hiding if they're following Jesus, right? And that's where we're at. That's this Babylon the Great that is pictured as this woman riding a scarlet beast, right? Blasphemy, all kinds of stuff. In opposition to all things that the Bible calls holy and true. And we see seeds of that in the world today. And it's going that direction. There'll be a complete tolerance of all things except those things that have to do with God, that have to do with the Bible, that have to do with Jesus followers, absolute truth, etc. Don't we kind of see that now? Be tolerant. Okay, well, I just want to let you know that Jesus loves you and he is the way to heaven. No, you can't say that. That's not very tolerant of you. Anyway. And this is kind of the point I want to make here and what I'm seeing in this. And we'll get into the specific symbolism of this in just a second. Our flesh will always move towards sin, corruption, and destruction. Always. Your flesh, my flesh, anybody's flesh. So we've got the spirit side of us that wants to do what's right, that wants to connect with God. It's only through our spirit, really, that we can actually commune with God, right? But then we have this flesh that's really kind of in rebellion towards God. And if we operate in one or the other, it's going to change how we speak, think, live, choose, etc. If we're operating in the Spirit, we're able to do the things that are most important to God. We're able to fulfill these things. If we're operating in the flesh, we're going to go the wrong direction. And it's always this direction right here. Sin, corruption, and destruction. Church, never underestimate your power to sin. We have that side of us. Even if you've been walking with God for years, man, there's always that tendency that if we take our foot off the gas, we'll start coasting. I think we talked about this at the end of after service, didn't we? When we were hanging out outside, it's like you never know. Like we should never think that we've got it all together. We're good. I'm good. Because as soon as you take your foot off the gas, you start slowing down, man. And all of a sudden, you stop reading your Bible, you stop going to church services, you stop praying, and all of a sudden you're alone. Satan's divided you, and then he hammers on you. Then you're like, how did I get here? Right? That's like, I've seen it. I've seen it hundreds of times at this point in my walk with God, how that's happened with people. It's sad, right? The flesh always moves towards these things. And ultimately, what happens? I guess I could even say at the end, because we're talking about the pursuit of freedom, what happens is bondage. When you are operating in your flesh, you go into bondage to those things. This new Babylon that's coming, while these people are like, oh, we're free to do whatever we want, we can live however we want, we're not going to have this Bible, this dusty old Bible, this God tell us what we can and can't do, we're going to do whatever we want. Ironically, they are chained to the drugs, to the way of living. And for those of us who have been in that, some of us adults who have lived that, we've walked in that, we've seen the chains that come upon you with addiction, with physical addiction, through sexual promiscuity, through pornography, through alcohol and drugs and all these different things. There's an addictive side of that, and you go into bondage to these things, and it chains you, and Satan robs you. He is always against you, but he dangles that little. It may not be the first time. It may not be the second time, right? But he's setting that hook in you, man. And when he's got that hook set, you're caught. You're caught. That's the destruction that happens and the bondage that happens. And it's darn hard to break free except by the power of Jesus Christ. But the good news is, who the Son sets free is free indeed. Amen? That's huge. Have you ever noticed how hard it is? How hard it is to do the things that are good for you? And how easy it is to do the things that are bad for you? It's like literally everything. Like working out. It's hard. Drag your butt to the gym, right? Or just doing something physical. It's hard to do that. It's really easy, though, to skip out on it, right? Eating right. It's easy to do the unhealthy thing. It's easy. It takes no effort. Relationships. It's hard to do the right thing. It's easy to do the wrong thing. Marriage, school, learning, and more. So many things. Before I became a Christian, in one sense, before I became a Christian, like living was easy. I just did what I wanted to do. Now I was still experiencing some of this stuff, the bondage, and I was like frustrated with that, and there was pain and hurt and all that stuff. But as far as the day-to-day, moment-by-moment, like you're not even thinking about it. That part of it's just easy. Whatever. I don't feel like doing it, or I do. And that was how I lived my life. For years. I just did whatever I wanted to do. I did whatever felt right. That's a recipe for disaster, isn't it? It doesn't feel right. Who says it has to feel right? It just needs to be right. I pointed at the Bible, by the way, right? It needs to be right. I remember, though, this kind of living where it took me, going off of what feels right. I was financially well off. I was in a big and fun city, San Diego. Had more money than I knew what to do with. I was hitting up the clubs, the bars with friends. I was fooling around with girls. I'd get drunk or high. But then there was this feeling of aloneness that happened as this started to happen. Like I said, that next step is bondage. Then all of a sudden you're doing something. You don't even realize, why am I doing this? Why do I keep doing this? I'm in like this cycle of always doing this. And I don't even realize, and all of us, and then you find other people that are doing it with you, and like all of a sudden we're just kind of in this cycle of, hey, it's Thursday, man. Hey, it's Friday, it's Saturday, it's Sunday, oh, Monday, get through the week so we can go out partying. You know, it was just a mess. I had a lack of purpose, hangovers, broken relationships, emptiness. I remember one specific night laying on my bed, and I was just picturing what it would look like if I ended my life. It's total darkness. I mean, I was feeling so alone. And it was just hitting me hard at night, man. And I'm like, why not just be done? and you're just kind of toying with that idea. I mean, how do you get to that point, guys? It's this. I was operating in my flesh. I didn't even know it. I didn't know about any of this Christian stuff. I was just doing my thing. And that's the path to sin. That's the desire for the enemy, to get you so chained and just hacking away at you piece by piece. He'll wait. He's patient. He'll take piece by piece by piece by piece of your mindset, your feelings, right? Your body. He just takes, and then you're just like, I feel awful. I just want to be done with this. There's an emptiness, and just death seems like a good call. That's the enemy. That's his game plan, man. He baits us with pleasure and then slams us when things go terribly wrong. Rinse, repeat, right? He baits us, man. And he's always doing this. We need to never think that we're free from this. Don't ever think that it can happen in your marriage. It can happen with your kids. It can happen at your work. It can happen with your friends. It can happen in your church. We need to make sure that we are in the Spirit, right? In the Spirit, and pursuing Him, focusing on the right things. We'll come to this, back to this in just a minute. Next section here, verse 7. I'm going to unpack this vision that John's having here of the beast and the scarlet woman dressed in purple and scarlet. But the angel said to me, why did you marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her, which has the 7 heads and the 10 horns. The beast that you saw was and is not, and will ascend out of the bottomless pit and go to perdition. And those who dwell on the earth will marvel, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they see the beast that was and is not and yet is. Here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. There are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come. And when he comes, he must continue a short time. The beast that was and is not is himself also the 8th, and is of the 7, and is going to perdition. Hang in there, we'll get there. The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as of yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast. These are of one mind, and they will give their power and authority to the beast. These will make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them. For he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those who are with him are called chosen and faithful. All right, we'll pause there for a second. This section can be difficult, okay? It's a difficult section. But note that God does want to give us understanding, as he does for all Scripture. He wants us to understand it. Verse 7 even says, talks about that. So it says here that this beast had 7 heads and 10 horns, right? This is the same beast we saw in chapter, 13, okay? We saw the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, right, coming out. It says here in verse 8 that the beast used to exist and comes back, okay? There's a fueling of something that comes from this bottomless pit, okay? So the bottomless pit is hell, specifically. Okay, so there's something, this beast is fueled by hell itself. It seems to parallel, guys, the 2nd chapter of Daniel. Okay, the 2nd chapter of Daniel talks about different kingdoms that are going to be ruling. It talks about, I think, 5 different ones, actually. One of them being future, okay? Matter of fact, did I put Daniel out there? I didn't, okay. I'm going to go there real quick. Make sure I bookmark it. This will give you some clarity on kind of what's to come here. It says here, this guy Nebuchadnezzar, who was the king of Babylon. Interesting, right? So we've got Daniel, who was able to interpret the dream, right? So that's what he's doing. God gave him an interpretation of this dream that Nebuchadnezzar had. So Nebuchadnezzar has this nightmare, basically. He's like, I don't know what this is. Nobody could interpret it. And Daniel's like, hey, look, God interprets dreams, man. Like, that's like what he does. And, I have this gift, and tell me the dream. And, like, let's unpack this thing here kind of type thing. So verse 31, it says, you, O king, were watching, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose splendor was excellent, stood before you, and its form was awesome. This image's head was of fine gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. You watched while a stone was cut out without hands, which struck the image on the feet of iron and clay and broke them to pieces. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, the gold were crushed together and became like chaff from the summer threshing floors. The wind carried them away. No trace of them was found. And the stone that struck the image became a great mountain, filled the whole earth. So he just basically told them what the dream is, right? So verse 36 says, this is the dream. We'll tell you the interpretation of it before the king. You, O king, are a king of kings, for the God of heaven has given you a kingdom, power, strength, and glory. Verse 38 says this, wherever the children of men dwell, or the beasts of the field and the birds of heaven, he has given them into your hand. He's made you ruler over all. You are the head of gold of this image, right? But after you shall arise another kingdom inferior to yours, then another, a third kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over all the earth. Then the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, inasmuch as iron breaks in pieces and shatters everything. And like iron that crushes, that kingdom will break in pieces and crush all others. Whereas you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay, partly of iron, this kingdom shall be divided, yet the strength of the iron shall be in it, just as you saw the iron mixed with ceramic clay. And as the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly fragile. By the way, how many toes are there? 10. Huh? Okay, right, yes. 10. As you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not adhere to one another, just as iron does not mix with clay. And in the days of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. It shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So you can see here, Daniel is interpreting this vision of world kingdoms, world dominating kingdoms. And so you've got the Babylonian Empire, which is the head and shoulders of gold. You've got the Medo-Persian Empire, which was the silver chest and arms. You have the Greek Empire, which was the legs, and so then you've got the Roman Empire, which is the thighs, and the Roman Empire was the legs of iron. Okay, and then there's a future one that's future to us, and it's the revived Roman Empire. It's of the first, but it's different. And that's what Revelation's talking about. It's a kingdom that was, and now it is, right? It was, and then it wasn't a kingdom, but now it's back. So there's going to be this revived Roman Empire, which is what Daniel 2 talks about. It has elements of the Roman Empire. It's iron, but it's mixed with clay. It doesn't work real well together. It's a loose alliance of these 10 toes. In the book of Revelation, it talks about 10 heads, right? So there's the iron clay. Now, of course, you've got God's kingdom coming, which is the big rock that smashes all the world, man's attempt to rule himself, right? And the rock expands, becomes a kingdom, and no one takes that away. That's the second coming. Okay? We talked about this when we went through the book of Daniel, for those that are with us at that time. And then now we're seeing it played out again in Revelation. So this beast in Revelation is most likely the revived Roman Empire. So she's right. That's the imagery, right? So the imagery is this woman who's representing Babylon and the debauchery and sin and lasciviousness of the city of Babylon, right? And man's kingdom, basically. And she's riding this beast, which is symbolic of a revived Roman Empire that's fueled by the devil himself, pagan, demonic, dominating, filled with sin. The Bible gives some more details here, and of course in verse 9, it says here's the mind who has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the Roman sits. There's also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, the other has not yet come. And when he does come, continues just a short time, right? The beast that was and is not is himself also the eighth. It's of the seven, it's going to perdition. Let's unpack that real quick. So 7 heads, it says 7 mountains. I'll be honest, this one I had a hard time with this verse, man, because some people are like, oh yeah, the seven mountains, that's Rome. Rome has 7, it's known as the city of 7 hills, right? Well, the problem is like they're hills, not mountains, and so it's like, is that what it is? I don't know. Some scholars are like, yeah, that's absolutely speaking of Rome. So there's going to be a revived, the Roman Catholic Church is going to be there. So, okay, maybe. Is it 7 kingdoms? That's another interpretation of this. I kind of lean towards that. These are 7 kingdoms, 7 kings, right? So if you look at the different world powers over history, right? So Daniel, too, kind of comes onto the scene with the vision that God gave Nebuchadnezzar, right? So he was the head. So he went at that time and then went into the future. If you take a step back further, you can actually go all the way back to Egypt, right? Egypt was a major world power. Like that was really the first country to kind of really own the Middle East, Africa, Europe, that type of area, okay? So if that's the first head, I guess you could say, our first kingdom there we're talking about. So Egypt, and then Assyria, then Babylon. So Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, which was active at the time that John wrote the book of Revelation. Then you've got this 7th kingdom, which will be this revived Roman Empire, which only continues very little time because all of a sudden, what does the Antichrist do? He takes over. He's like, nope, I got this. And it's of the 7th, right? And so anyway, that's how I'm seeing this. And I say it that way because it's kind of, I don't know. I'll be honest. I'm not 100% sure, but it's because this is one of the toughest sections of Scripture in all the Bible, in my opinion. But as I see it, the 7th kingdom will be this revived Roman Empire in the end times, which is a unification of 10 nations. We've talked about this before, right? 10 nations, that's the 10 horns, right? 10 nations where the 3 are going to be overthrown. You guys remember this from Daniel chapter 7, talks about that. It says the Antichrist comes up as a little horn. He overthrows 3 of the 10 horns. So that's Daniel chapter 7 talks about this same thing, okay? There's going to be a unification of 10 nations, unification, right? And then the Antichrist rises up and overthrows them. That's found in Daniel chapter 7. It's paralleled here in Revelation 17. He takes over as the 8th, basically. It's his kingdom at that point. At the time of Jesus' second coming, it's the Antichrist and his armies, and he's rallied some other nations to fight against God, right? These 10 horns found in verse 12, those are 10 kings which serve the revived Roman Empire. Like I said, Daniel 7 tells that 3 of those kings will be removed from power. You've got one world religion, the Antichrist and Satan. That's why sometimes you look at this beast and you're like, what the heck is this thing? What do I do with this? This is kind of weird. Well, it's because it's this amalgamation of one world religion, one world government. The Antichrist is in there, and Babylon is there, and the false prophets there. All this, there's this whole big movement, and then remember, this is all in the wake of a cataclysm that's been caused by the rapture of the church, which created all kinds of issues, and then you have the judgments of God that were raining down. So man kind of rallies together. They freely give themselves over to an entity that can take control and try to, how do we build up from these ashes, and how do we rise up above all this junk? We don't want to bow down to God, so what can we do to in opposition? So that's what's happening here. And so they give them something to believe in, and they rally some other nations, and they're throwing money at it and resources, and they're kind of coming together. They make this city Babylon, and that becomes just nastiness, right? All kinds of nastiness. And then the Antichrist finally is like, hey, look, I'm God, worship me, right? And so that's what we see, and he takes over as the 8th. When it talks about the 8th kingdom, he represents the 8th kingdom. Notice here in verse 13, this is the goal. Okay, this is the goal of all of this, of the push. These kings, these nations, everything, these are of one mind. They will give their power and authority to the beast, these kings. They're going to be of one mind as a unification. They will give their power and authority to the beast. And that's what we're seeing. There's going to be this consolidation of power in this government. And control will be given over to this Antichrist, who's potentially possessed by Satan himself, for sure fueled by him, then the demonic, right? Using government and legislation and power to control people and to come against the people, to oppress, right? And the goal is to ultimately stand against God. They will make war, that's what it says, verse 14, don't miss this. They will make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them. For he is Lord of lords, King of kings, and those who are with him are called chosen and faithful. God is for freedom, guys. God is always for freedom. But the enemy wants control. The enemy wants to control you. The enemy wants to control a nation. He wants to control a city. He wants to control a family. He wants to control a church. He wants to control a government. He wants to control the world. Because he hates creation. He hates specifically humans. We're made in God's image. We're made in his image. We're the only mankind is the only thing made in God's image. We bear his image, and so you are an affront to the forces of darkness. Just who you are. And so Satan wants to control it and dominate you, dominate a government, dominate the world, and just say, I got this. I'm the God of this world. I'm the God of these people. I'm being worshipped. See that? You see that, God? You see that? Look, they're worshiping me. They're following me. They're under my thumb. I'm reigning over them. And that's what the devil does, and he wants to get you under his control. God comes to bring freedom. He wants to bring you freedom. Consider the world governments throughout the ages, the ones we just mentioned. We mentioned Assyria, Egypt, Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome. Throughout the ages, consider the direction of our nation. The trajectory that we're on is controlling. Ironically, the nation was born out of throwing off tyranny, which is control, ultimate control, that England had on its people, right? And I know that there's more to it than that, but I mean, that's in our Declaration of Independence. It's like saying it's our duty to oppose tyranny wherever we find it. You know, and it's like saying, King, we've tried to, if you guys have never read this, it's a powerful document. You know, we've pled with you, we've pleaded with you to not do this, but you've left us no choice. Like it's total tyrannical, and we need to have freedom. Isn't it? You guys ever think about the fact that like freedom is something worth dying for? Throughout the beginning, people have bled and died, given their lives for freedom. Right? This is something we were like, yeah, this is, we don't want to, we just know that slavery and that kind of oppression is just wrong. It's wrong. It's deep within us. There's nobody that's like, yeah, that's cool. That's good to do, unless they're just really like evil, but this core need of freedom. Why? Why is that there? Because it comes from God. Ever since day one, what did he give Adam and Eve? He gave them freedom. He gave them freedom to choose. He says, you can eat from any tree in the garden. Don't eat of that one, though. Because he wanted to give them a choice. Are you going to choose to obey or rebel? Of course, he knew the answer to that. But he still gave them the freedom to do so. Freedom comes from God. And you consider the direction of our nation, when you consider where all of the major world powers have gone with the control. It goes about control and money and power. It's nasty, And yet God comes in there and goes, hey, look, amidst all this, I want you to have freedom. I don't want you to be under the control of anything. I want you to be free. I want you to be free, that you can call your own shots, right? I want you to be free to worship. I want you to be free to live a godly life, right? It's crazy how sometimes we can think like, we look at this and I remember as a non-believer, I had that flipped kind of. I was like, God is for control. The Bible's about controlling. Religion is a man-made thing to control people. You guys ever heard this? I believe that. I believe that. God just wants to control me. And the reason he's just trying to get a hold of this and that. It's like, I want to be free, man. The ironic thing is it's upside down. Our pursuit of freedom in our flesh will always lead to bondage. Because we're just going off of our emotions and our feelings, and we just, whatever feels right, you do it, will always lead to bondage and destruction. Ironically, right? We'd end up chaining ourselves. When God's like, look, sure, I've got rules. They're all for your good. Every single one of them. I'm giving you the playground. And I just have some, just stay out of this area, stay out of there, because that's bad stuff. Stay away from that. I want you to have fun. I want you to be free to have fun and not hurt yourself and other people. Now go play. And yet we're like, no, the reason he told us to not go over there is because he just doesn't want us to have that. He's trying to control us. And then we go over there and we're like, oh, this sucks over here. Anyway. All right, verse 15. Verse 15, yeah. Then he said to me, this is the angel explaining the vision. Then he said to me, the waters which you saw where the harlot sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. And the 10 horns which you saw on the beast, these will hate the harlot, make her desolate and naked, eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to fulfill his purpose, to be of one mind, and to give their kingdom to the beast until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman who you saw is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. So it says very plainly, the waters that the beast and the harlot stood upon, it's people, it's cultures, it's society. Many different prophecies talk about waters and the ocean, and all of them, you could say like, all the ones I know in my head right now, they refer to peoples, cultures, society as a whole. And then verse 16 tells us that these 10 kingdoms that are kind of united under this new one world government, they're ultimately going to hate this new Babylon. There's going to be this turning against this. We don't know why. Doesn't say why. I'm not even going to speculate why. But there's going to be this hatred that kind of just happens there. We don't know why they will turn on this world capital of sorts. Maybe it's greed. Because Babylon's going to be like this last bastion. Like the entire world's like just destroyed, basically. It's ultimately because of sin. God's wrath was poured out on sin. Take sin out of the equation, then there's life, right? But maybe they were greedy. Maybe these nations were greedy of like, how do they have that kind of a city? Maybe it's jealousy. Maybe, you ever notice that power doesn't like to share it? So maybe there was a degree of like this Antichrist is getting power, and like, wait a second, hold on, and you're setting your base up here, whoa, and maybe there's some of that's going on. I don't know. But we do know that God will use all of this to accomplish his purpose. So even man's trying to do their thing and manipulate, and the enemy's trying to do his thing, and he's playing it, he's playing people, and he's got people deceived. Even though that's going on, God is still sovereign. God is ultimately, he has authority. And that was my point here, is that despite what man does to gain power and control, God brings freedom. So somebody else might try to exude power over you. God brings freedom. And sometimes that freedom is more internal than external. Because you think of people that have been enslaved. Well, they didn't have freedom. Physical, like freedom to believe and do go to work and on their own terms, right? They didn't have freedom like that. But you'll see that so in the youth group, we're reading Philippians, right? So we just finished chapter 1 of Philippians, okay? And Paul is in prison saying, hey, this is a blessing. Guy's in jail for preaching the gospel, by the way. They told him, don't preach the gospel. I have to. Don't do it. We're going to throw you in jail. I got to tell people about Jesus. Boom, he's arrested. Chains. Jail. And he's writing, or orating it for someone to take it to the church in Philippi. And he says, hey, don't be frustrated. Don't be sad for me. You guys keep being one. Keep the unity, man. Keep the faith. I'm good. This is for the furtherance of the gospel. There's people I can preach here. Paul was in prison, and yet he's free. Paul was in chains, and yet his mind and his heart are free. And God used that man in that place at that time to write. He wrote multiple books from prison. There's nothing that man can do to you to control you and afflict you and punish you where God can't give you freedom. There's people that think they're free, but they're chained. There's people that think that they're chained, but they're free. God comes in and He unlocks that. He unlocks our thinking. He opens our minds. He enlightens us in that sense. He's unlocking our thinking. He's unlocking our feeling into right feeling. And in that, He brings freedom. What about things like hope? We talked about this last week. Hope. You can have hope in the darkest of times. You can have peace in the most chaotic of times. How? You can have joy in the most sorrowful of times. How? It's the power of God. God brings freedom in those things, and thankfully, He breathes life into those things, right? Isn't that huge, guys? That's our God. He can make those free in situations that no one else could. By all intents and purposes, Paul, when he's writing in the book of Philippians, I'll be honest, I would struggle there. I mean, you're hungry, you're cold, you're in prison wrongfully in prison, and he's going, that's all good. I probably had moments of testing. I'm not saying that, but he's like, it'll be all right. I trust God. Powerful. Despite what man does to gain power and control, God always brings freedom. So if we're wanting to maintain our freedom, if you want to be truly free in your thinking, truly free in your feeling, your actions, okay, this is what you can do. And I want to warn you that the world has a way of living. The world is ultimately, mostly run by the enemy. Mostly. I mean, the common narrative is if it feels good, do it. I mean, that's pretty much the motto, you know. And if you can find a few, hey, ask a few people, and then, they said the same thing, so I guess let's do it, you know. So you got to, that's the warning. The warning is, so church, if you just do nothing, you just go with the flow, you'll find that you will go the flow of the world, which is in opposition to what the Bible says. When Jesus said, hey, follow me, Jesus said, wide is the gate to destruction, narrow is the path to everlasting life. He meant it. It is a highway. It is a 6-lane freeway going to destruction and to ultimately hell. And it's not even a freeway. It's a massive mile, like Mississippi River running. All you got to do is just do nothing, and you'll float downstream. And then all of a sudden you'll be like, where am I? It takes effort to follow Jesus. It takes resolve to follow Jesus. That's why the Chosen, where it's got the fish and they're swimming, and all of a sudden they get saved and they turn the other direction. Right? And you got to swim, but we're swimming upstream. We got to swim. It takes effort. As soon as you back off, guys, you start to drift. You can't do that. It takes effort. Jesus says it's narrow. It's a narrow path. It's not easy. So if you're wanting to maintain your freedom, here's what you need to do. Number 1, follow God faithfully and obediently. Like, back to my, why is it that all the things that are good for us are hard, right? Oh. Narrow path, man. Follow God faithfully and obediently. Faithfully meaning daily. Don't back off. You don't take a vacation from God day. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Follow God every single day. Be faithful with it. Be obedient. Honor Him. Honor Him. Be obedient. Choose. Here's what you got to decide. We've talked about this, was it last week or the week before? Is Jesus Lord of your life? To break it down even further, is Jesus Lord over all areas of your life? Or if you said, no, I respectfully decline your advice, God. I know what's best. Follow God faithfully and obediently. Next thing, ask God to reveal the chains in your life. You might have, do I have them? Do we have a chain? Do we have chains in our life that need to be revealed? Something that you don't even realize that you're tied to, and here's how you'll know. You kind of keep repeating the same stupid thing. I keep having a conflict in this same area over time and time. What's the chain I have? Why am I in this state again, you know? So ask God to reveal the chains in your life. By the way, unintentionally these things can develop. These may not be intentional things that you've done. Oftentimes, especially for a believer, it's just kind of things, all of a sudden you're like, I didn't even think I had something. And all of a sudden God's like, I want to talk to you about that because I want you to be free. And you've tied yourself to this rock. Will you let me? Oh, I like my rock. No, you don't. Trust me. You'll like me free better. Let me give you some examples. Okay. What goes into your mind? What are you filling your minds with? How much time do you spend on social media? How much time do you spend playing video games? Yep. How much time do you spend streaming movies and content and videos and YouTube videos and TikTok and all these different, Snapchat, all these different things? How much time do you spend streaming versus how much time you spend filling your mind with the Bible? Filling your mind with biblical content. There's biblical videos. There's some great, we live in a day and age where you could find there's amazing teachings on YouTube. Powerful stuff. You've got hours and hours and hours. Here's the problem. We don't want to eat our vegetables. We want to eat cake. And that's all we want to eat is cake. Guys, you do that, you're going to have some health problems. And in the same way, if you don't fill your mind with the things that are good, godly vegetables, we'll call them, then if you don't do that, you're going to have some spiritual problems. And you're going to find that you keep having issues on the same things. So ask God to reveal these things. What's going into your mind? Are you guarding it? The enemy, I'm spending a little more time on this one. The enemy he knows that the battlefield of the mind is like square one. That's like the first step. If he can capture your thinking and how you think, that changes how you view the world, how you view relationships, how you view the church, how you view God, how you view the Word, how you view prayer, all these different things, how you view worship, all of those different things. And if he can get into that and change the way that you're thinking, He's got you, man. And now you're under control. But God wants to bring you freedom. So guard what goes into your mind, right? Guard what goes into your mind. There's so much entertainment. Oh my gosh, right? I feel it, guys. I feel it. I live in this world too. And it's hard. You might just have to deny yourself and pick up your cross and follow him. Here's another one. That was maybe you just justify a show that you know has bad content because it's entertaining. You guys ever do that? I won't ask for a show of hands. You just watch a show, you're like, oh man, this isn't, but it's good. But it's got the bad stuff. But it's good. Here's a good question you can ask yourself, by the way. Would Jesus watch this? It's usually like immediately you know, right? Would Jesus listen to this song? Would Jesus watch this? There used to be the bracelets, right? The WWJD. What would Jesus do? Just as a reminder. You'd wear it as a reminder, right? Bring them back. You know? But just ask yourself, would Jesus watch this? If no, then I think it stands to reason that you shouldn't, right? What we do with our bodies. Maybe are we chained by what we do with our bodies? What we put into them? Are drugs and alcohol creeping in? Don't make yourself slave to such things. Seek freedom. Are you compromising in what or who you look at? Everybody does it. It's natural. Don't be addicted to what you look at. Seek freedom. Are you making excuses for not having purity in your relationships? The way the Bible wants us to date. It's so old-fashioned. Don't be enslaved by society and society's standards. Don't be enslaved by your own lust. Seek freedom. Do you have chains in your life on how you use your money? The concept of tithing, which means 10%, giving 10%, it's a commandment from God. The big reason for this is that it helps prevent money from chaining you. Like, God wants you to be free from living paycheck to paycheck. He wants to give you financial freedom. And if you put your priorities straight, you'll find that you have financial freedom. I'm just telling you, like, that's it. No, I'm not there yet. Okay, fine. Are you moving towards that? Like, what are you doing to prioritize your life in such a way that you are not enslaved and chained to stuff? Because usually that's what it is. Your money goes somewhere, and you're paying for things that you don't really need. When God's like, hey, look, I want you to be free from materialism. I want you to get in the game and use your money for the Lord, those types of things. Those can become chains. Don't be enslaved to your bank account. Don't be enslaved to your possessions and living paycheck to paycheck. Seek freedom. Do you have chains on how you're viewing others? Sometimes we view others. Media's pushing. The whole tribalism, there's so much tribalism online right now, right? Divisions. And I'm of this camp, I'm of that camp, I'm of this camp, right? How you're viewing others, that can be a chain. Those crazy liberals keep messing things up. Oh, those Republicans, can't stand them. Ugh. Youth of today, they just don't know. Old people, oh gosh. Those are chains. Careful of that stuff. We're human beings. And if you're a Christian, you're on Team Jesus. That's your teammate, man. If you're trying to be a team that wins, you don't go punch your teammate. Media wants to chain you. Media wants to chain you. Why? Because they want to control you. Because if they can control what you believe and what you think, then they can get you to buy their product or support their cause or vote the way they want you to vote. And they can get you to demonize other people. All of a sudden, it's who's ultimately in control here, guys? That's what I'm saying. This was all in the second point. We're almost done. Ask God to reveal any chains in your life. And if I mention any of there's more too, by the way, right? There's more. If I mention any of these things and you were getting your feathers ruffled, that's probably something you need to talk to God about. Next step. Well, there you go. Repent and take action to eliminate any idols. I'm not exempt to this. I need to do this. You need to do this. Any good God-following person needs to do this. Follow God faithfully and obediently. Lord, I love you. I'm in. And then, is there anything in my life that is off? Like, what's preventing me from just being just all in? What am I holding on to? What am I holding back from? Why aren't I, you talk to me, God, and just be still. Just be still and listen to him. Be still and read the word. Have some alone time. Clear your thoughts. Ask God to do that. Holy Spirit is good at revealing these things. He will lead you into all truth. And then when something comes up, okay, when the word is clear, when God is clear, repent. Repent. He's already forgiven you. You need to turn from it and take action to eliminate any idols. Any of these idols, any of these chains. Repent and take action to do that. So you would guard yourself from the things that hurt you. When I try to eat less sugar, I don't leave sugar out on the counter. I don't go and buy it at the store when I'm at the store. Right? If I struggle with alcohol, then I take a different way home and I don't drive by the bar I used to go to. So there's just different things that you can do to kind of try to eliminate those things, and that's just being wise, okay? But you need to repent from some of these things as God reveals them to you and just take action on these things. Amen?